In my view, reframing addiction from a choice or a character flaw to a disease is a step in the right direction because the disease frame implies that A, addicted people deserve compassion instead of contempt, and B, addiction can be addressed and treated. At the same time, I don't think the disease model is fully accurate. For example, Dr. Doub's claim in the American Addiction Center's video that a 20-year alcoholic is only a true addict if they have a brain abnormality is as fanciful as postulating male and female brains to explain gender dysphoria or phlogiston to explain combustion. Calling addiction a disease is useful for convincing people to respond to addiction with compassion and treatment, but, as Lewis writes, brain disease might be a useful metaphor for how addiction seems, but it's not a sensible explanation for how addiction works. He sees addiction as a developmental cascade of learned behaviors. In other words, addictions are habits. Sometimes they are especially compulsive or harmful habits, but often they are not. I suspect that as a culture, we have a confirmation bias when we see addiction so that we automatically frame extremely compulsive and harmful examples like someone who smokes crystal meth and stays up for 3 days as addictions because we already know that that's what addiction looks like. But at the same time, we automatically frame more functional and socially acceptable addictions like coffee drinking, shopping, working, and formerly cigarette smoking as habits or just regular human activities that don't need a label instead of calling them addictions. Lewis sees addiction as a learned behavior, and I agree. Alexander, Mate, and others place that learned behavior in a context of inadequate or non-existent relationships, community, and meaning. Alexander calls this the dislocation theory of addiction. That may sound abstract, but it's not. People get high in order to feel different when they feel bad. They feel bad when they don't have any meaning in their lives, and they lack meaning when they don't have meaningful connections to other individuals or groups of people. Alexander demonstrated this in a series of experiments in the 70s known as Rat Park. He and colleagues put rats in cages with drinkable morphine. Like humans, rats are social creatures. The team found that rats isolated in individual cages would get and stay addicted to opioids, but rats that could leave their cage to play with other rats in a larger rat park area would skip their opioids. Even rats who were already addicted to opioids would gradually wean themselves off once they got access to other rats in the park. Alexander argues that similarly, humans are miserable and therefore want to get high when we're isolated, and will no longer need to regularly get high as a coping mechanism if we reconnect to other people through emotional intimacy, shared meaning, and playful fun. This need for community and connection helps explain why 12-step programs like Alcoholics Anonymous have significant success in treating addiction, as found by Kelly et al. In summary, I view addiction as a learned response to pain, helplessness, existential despair, and spiritual loneliness. Therefore, I think framing addiction as a disease, i.e. a dysfunction of the body, as Dr. Doub puts it, individualizes a holistic problem and misses the forest through the trees.